It's my distinct pleasure this morning to introduce our next speaker, Mr. George Schu. Mr. Schu is a Senior Vice President at Booz Allen Hamilton. He is responsible for the company's technology and business and government and commercial markets. His primary functional areas include cybersecurity, identity risk management, cloud security, program compliance. Mr. Schu is active in government industry associations such as the Homeland Security and Defense Council, the Information Security Association. I got to stop there. The government is the only organization in the world that can come up with more acronyms than banking. The Cloud Security Alliance. He has worked closely with government and commercial clients to develop affordable solutions and for trusted services. Mr. Schu is an active leader in Booz Allen's diversity programs. Before joining Booz Allen, Mr. Schu led the growth of VeriSign's government business, delivering a range of cybersecurity and critical infrastructure services. He has also directed the development of government market solutions at Oracle, a large multinational computer technology corporation that develops market computer hardware systems, where he specialized in security solutions. Retired from the U.S. Navy, Mr. Schu served as a commanding officer of the Corey Station, a technical training base in Pensacola, Florida. He led the training of members of all services and foreign students in cybersecurity, electronic warfare, and cryptology. He served on the staff of the commander of the 6th Fleet in Italy, where he was responsible for coordinating the electronic warfare resources of all government and allied partners in the Mediterranean Sea and other Department of Defense roles in Washington, D.C. Mr. Schu is a graduate of the Defense Language Institute and the Industrial College of the Armed Forces and holds an MA degree in security studies from Georgetown University. He also speaks Italian, Russian, and Spanish. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Schu to the stage.
Good morning, everybody. It's a great honor to be here. That bio of mine, it was a lot longer than it needed to be, but and it makes me feel older than I really am. But you know, it just kind of underscores that the topic that we're talking about today, cybersecurity, has a legacy in other things that we've been looking at as a nation, and to protect this nation, to protect our forces, to protect our critical infrastructure. It goes back to disciplines like electronic warfare and ComSec and information security. Those are the foundations in terms of our ability to be as strong as we are as we're looking at this new threat to our nation, but at the same time be very aware of the threat to the nation. You know, I think it's interesting and highly symbolic that we're talking about this weighty subject of cybersecurity as a threat to our economy and a threat to our national security in this city on the 200th anniversary of what this city meant to the defense of a young nation. Because, you know, we were fighting one threat then and we defeated it. We're looking at another new threat now. I'm confident we're going to defeat it, but there's a lot of work to do. So the congressman talked about the threat a good bit, so I'm not going to repeat everything that they've said, but I want to underscore a couple of things about the threat because it is real. And it is real to our business community as well as our national security infrastructure. This business of cyber espionage is real. The Chinese by themselves are extracting over 1 terabyte of information every day from, you know, ranging from R&D, research and development details to business plans to source code of software companies. It's having a devastating impact on our economy, undermining our innovation and our competitiveness in the future. You know, just this year we've heard from our leaders about the seriousness of the threat, how real the threat is, how present, how urgent it is to do something about it. General Keith Alexander, the director of the National Security Agency in July, talked about how from 2009 to 2011, we saw a 17-fold increase in the amount of cyber attacks on our critical infrastructure. 17-fold in 2 years. And the amount of attacks on our critical infrastructure, like the electrical grid, water supplies, telephone and cell phone and computer networks is increasing every day. And he further he said that should we see a real coordinated attack on any of our critical infrastructure. Sadly, we're not prepared at this time to ward off that attack. The president in July, the same month, happened to talk about a cabinet-level exercise, cyber exercise that he conducted. Because at that level of our government, we understand the seriousness of the threat and the urgency to do something about it. And the president talked about, should financial networks be attacked, the kind of financial crisis that we could see would make the financial crisis of 2008 pale by comparison. Attacks on our water supply or our healthcare system could create a healthcare emergency. And you know, we've witnessed outages in our electrical grid before, not because of cyber attacks, but because of equipment malfunction principally. And we saw how devastating that could be. If there were a coordinated attack on the electrical grid, you know, businesses, cities, and even regions, the lights could go out, and it would just have a profound impact on our economy. So FBI Director Mueller talked this year also about how the #1 mission of the Bureau is counterterrorism, and thank God it is. And what a great job they've done in stopping terrorist attacks in this nation. But he said right behind counterterrorism is cyber, because the amount of cybercrime we are seeing is increasing at an astronomical pace. And so he is devoting more and more resources to fighting the cybercrime threat. He said he foresees in the near future how cybercrime could eclipse counterterrorism as the #1 mission of the Bureau. That is really profound. I mean, this is a guy that has stood for counterterrorism, and he recognizes the importance of being just as concerned about cybersecurity and cybercrime and building up defenses against that. The Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, as it's known, is a component of the Department of Homeland Security. It is the agency, as you know, that reacts to emergencies and helps communities recover from emergencies. It issues a report every year called the National Preparedness Report. This year, the report looked at cybersecurity, and it underscored how states in particular have a long way to go to get up to standards on cybersecurity, because they haven't had the resources to put against you know, building their cybersecurity posture. That's really bad news for us, because you know, states really need to be on the front lines of responding to a cyber crisis, just as they are a real natural emergency or other kind of crisis. There's an institute from Congressman Rogers' home state, Michigan, called the Ponemon Institute, P-O-N-E-M-O-N. It does very fine studies on a range of subjects. It's an independent institute, very academic in nature. And every year it issues a report called the Cost of Data Breach Report. So it talks about the real costs that enterprises, businesses, governments, hospitals, academic institutions suffer when there is a data breach. Now, a data breach could be just extracting some data. It could be passwords. It could be files. It could be business plans. Every time when there's a data breach, it costs a lot of money for an enterprise to recover it. And they said the average cost of a data breach is $5 million. So that's just one data breach in a world where we're suffering cyber attacks all the time. And sadly, we don't know the extent of the data breaches that we're suffering. But those that we do, you know, enterprises have to spend a lot of time remediating it, reporting it, auditing it. They have to suffer sometimes stock devaluation or brand devaluation and recover from that. So all of those costs in the aggregate come out to about $5 million. And that's $2 million better than it was the year before. So there's a positive vector there, but it's still very expensive. And it's expense that companies should be concerned about and should do whatever they can do to prevent it. So let's talk a little bit about what companies are doing to increase their cybersecurity posture. You know, it wasn't long ago when cybersecurity was all about point solutions and perimeter defense. But today, you know, we have to look at it much more comprehensively and more balanced so that we have a fully functioning cyber ecosystem inside of our enterprises. You can't look at this as just a technical solution. You have to look at it much more comprehensively. To do cybersecurity right, you have to address people, processes, and technology. And you know, we're looking at really a totally new way of getting the cybersecurity posture of an enterprise up and functioning and sustaining. Because the threat is pernicious and it's evolving, it's getting worse every time we see it. And so therefore your cybersecurity solutions need to be evolving and continually improving. So what are we looking at today in enterprises? We're seeing how smart enterprises are adopting cybersecurity in a much more business-focused way, in a much more comprehensive way. And they're looking at things like return on security investment, or ROSI. And ROSI is one measurement of how an enterprise is aligning their cybersecurity posture with the business imperatives of that enterprise, so it is totally integrated and risk-aligned. So that's the way we see smart enterprises going right now. Cybersecurity is something that needs to be at the top of a CEO's agenda. Indeed, cybersecurity is something that's in the boardroom, because board of directors need to be, who are accountable because of Sarbanes-Oxley, need to be very concerned about the cybersecurity impact on that enterprise and what that enterprise needs to do to protect it against cybersecurity attacks. So the complexity of the problem grows and grows as things like the insider threat, your employees inside your firewall, who do you trust? Secure Computing Magazine, or SC Magazine as it's called, did a report just last month about the changing nature of the insider threat. And this is very interesting because, you know, it's all about who do you trust. Generally, we trust our employees. But in this day of, economic strain on the economy and people losing their jobs and the disaffection that people have, the lack of trust that they have with their employers, people are likely to do desperate things. And indeed, that has been the cause of a new increase in insider threat activity. The other new phenomenon that's causing a challenge to our cybersecurity posture in our enterprises is the burgeoning use of mobile devices, smartphones, and tablets, and the phenomenon of bring your own device to work. BYOD, as it's called, is a very good thing for CIOs because it helps them manage their IT budget in a smarter way. People bring their own devices to work. It's a matter of enabling those devices to access the infrastructure of the company in a secure way. So it's a new challenge. It doesn't mean that that's going to, wreck the cybersecurity posture of the enterprise, but smart CISOs and CIOs are looking at that as part of the composite issue that they need to address for their cybersecurity. So that's an overview of what we're seeing in businesses today. And I look forward to talking to a lot of you later on. Baltimore is a great community, as Congressman Ruppersberger stated, and there's a great deal of cybersecurity innovation going on in the city and in this area. So you're in a good place because you have the right kind of talent around you to make yourself secure. Thank you very much.